Welcome to today's deep dive. If you are tuning in right now, you are looking for the signal in the noise.
Right.
We know who you are. You're the learner.
Yeah.
You want thorough knowledge, you want it efficiently, and you're hunting for those real paradigm-shifting insights.
Exactly. You want those aha moments without drowning in a sea of just, basic exposition.
Yeah, you want the context, the mechanics, and you want to know why it actually matters to the broader tech landscape.
Yeah.
And man, we have an incredible roadmap for you today.
It is great to be here. We are examining a stack of material today that, honestly, it completely challenges the conventional wisdom about how digital infrastructure is built,
Oh, totally.
how it's scaled, how it's deployed in emerging markets. We are going to be analyzing a very specific, hyper-localized approach to tech that has massive global implications.
Yeah, so let's lay out the exact mission for this deep dive. We are analyzing a localized technology ecosystem that is crystallizing around a major upcoming event.
Right. The second African AI Innovators Summit 2026.
Exactly. Which is taking place online on March 28th, 2026.
Right.
But to be clear, our goal today is not to just, read an event itinerary to you.
No.
We are using this summit as a lens to explore a massive, grassroots digital ecosystem rapidly developing in Africa. And it has the explicit goal of closing the tech skills gap.
Which is a crucial distinction. I mean, we are looking at the foundational blocks of a localized digital economy being laid down in real time.
Right.
Built by the people who are actually going to use it, rather than just waiting for some Western tech behemoth to adapt an existing product for their market.
Exactly. And just to hook you on the staggering scale and ambition of this ecosystem, we're going to be dissecting an e-commerce platform that charges merchants exactly $3.60 for an entire year of hosting.
It's
A
wild.
whole year. We're also going to look at the cross-disciplinary coalition of tech founders driving this initiative, and we're going to analyze the technical reality of a lead developer who has built over 200 computer programs,
200.
authored 9 books, and operates under the moniker of the programmer without stress. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's start with the anchor point, the summit itself. The thematic framing of the second African AI Innovator Summit 2026 is highly deliberate.
Right.
It is scheduled for 4:00 p.m. Central Africa time on March 28, 2026. And the core theme is AI for Africa, closing the skills gap and building local solutions.
Right, and jumping into that theme, the messaging surrounding this event actively strips away the whole science fiction mystique of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, completely.
They explicitly frame AI as a present-day tool for transformation, not some distant theoretical concept. It's highly utilitarian.
What's fascinating here is how that utility is directly tied to the second half of their theme, building local solutions.
Yeah.
For an audience that follows the tech industry, you know that the dominant AI narrative is currently monopolized by a few massive players in Silicon Valley building these monolithic trillion-parameter models.
Like the massive black boxes.
Exactly, but those models are fundamentally trained on Western data, Western cultural contexts, and Western economic assumptions.
Which doesn't necessarily translate if you're trying to optimize logistics for informal markets in, say, Kigali or Nairobi.
Precisely. The push for local solutions is really a push for data sovereignty and contextual relevance.
Yeah.
It is the recognition that importing Western technology wholesale often imports Western bottlenecks.
Oh, that's a great point.
This summit is focused on equipping local minds to build smaller, highly fine-tuned, localized models that actually solve the specific friction points of their own communities.
And you don't build an ecosystem that specific without a very calculated type of leadership at the helm.
No, you really don't.
When reviewing the organizers for this summit, you might initially assume it's just one corporate entity putting on a marketing event. But Alreflections, the company driving a lot of this, is very clear that they are just one piece of a larger puzzle.
Right, they are part of a coalition. And the structural makeup of that coalition is telling. It reads less like a standard corporate board and much more like an end-to-end pipeline designed to address every vulnerability in a developing tech sector.
Let's look at the specific lead organizers, because it really does cover the entire stack. You have Mihigo Anaja, the CEO of the software company Alreflections.
Yep.
You have Chijioke Prosper, the founder of Parity Digital Academy.
Right.
There is Julius Mayambi, the CEO of Combitrust AI. Then you have independent boots-on-the-ground execution with Isaac Ampere, who's listed as a software developer.
Okay.
And finally, Unity Bizien, the founder of Aster Consulting Group.
I really want you, the listener, to imagine the collaborative power of that. Analyze the mechanics of that specific grouping. If you want to build a self-sustaining tech economy, you need software infrastructure.
Which Alreflections provide.
Right. But software is useless if you don't have a trained workforce.
Which is where Parity Digital Academy comes in.
Exactly. And you need dedicated R&D for emerging tech, hence Comatrust AI. But here is the most critical link.
What's that?
You need businesses to actually integrate these tools profitably. That is why having Astor Consulting Group at the table is so strategic. They bridge the gap between developer capabilities and commercial application.
It's an incredibly mature approach. I mean, they aren't just throwing code at a wall and hoping the market figures it out.
No.
They've built the academy to train the developers, the trust to build the AI, and the consulting firm to onboard the local businesses. It's an entirely closed loop.
And that infrastructure makes their primary call to action highly credible. They state, and I quote, "The future of AI in Africa will be built by those who show up. Be in the room."
Wow.
It is an acknowledgement that they have built the scaffolding, the education, the consulting, the software. But the actual economic engine requires grassroots participation.
Be in the room. It's a powerful mandate for an online event. It applies active construction, not passive consumption. Now, speaking of the people doing the actual construction, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the profile of the CEO of Alreflections, Mihigo Anacha, because the output we are seeing here defies typical development cycles.
Oh, the profile provided is certainly unconventional for a tech CEO. It blends aggressive technical output with a highly philosophical approach to the work.
To say the least. He describes himself as the author of Time and Legacy, which is quite the title.
It is.
But the metric that really stops you in your tracks is the output. 9 books and over 200 computer programs.
Incredible.
200. And to top it off, he operates under the title of the programmer without stress.
Let's push on that for a second, because anyone who writes code or manages a development team knows that shipping 200 programs is inherently a logistical nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of a programmer without stress almost sounds like an oxymoron in our current tech climate, where burnout is essentially an industry standard.
Right. My immediate thought is, how do you manage the technical debt of 200 distinct computer programs without having a nervous breakdown?
The clue lies in where and how these programs are being deployed. The materials note that these programs are hosted on his official website and on a storefront called GJ Shop on itch.io.
Now, itch.io is primarily known as an indie game marketplace, right? Like a hosting site for lightweight experimental digital assets.
Exactly. It's a platform famous for game jams and rapid prototyping. If he is utilizing itch.io as a primary distribution node, it suggests a highly agile Unix philosophy approach to development.
Right.
He is likely not building 200 massive monolithic enterprise applications burdened with complex dependencies.
He's building microtools.
Yes, highly modular, low-dependency scripts and tools designed to solve one specific problem flawlessly, and then he ships it. When you remove the bloat of enterprise architecture and focus on shipping lightweight, functional utilities, the stress of development drops significantly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is a ship early, ship often mentality.
And he is pairing that technical output with a massive content engine. The materials outline that he runs a free newsletter, a podcast, and a YouTube channel.
Right.
And uses his platforms to share ideas, books he has read, and help others live what he calls a success-aimed life.
That phrase, a success-aimed life, contextualizes the entire operation. In Western tech, the ultimate goal is often an IPO or an acquisition by a larger monopoly.
Sure.
But in emerging tech hubs, entrepreneurship is frequently viewed as a mechanism for communal uplift. The drive to build 200 programs or write 9 books stems from a desire to democratize access to digital tools.
Yeah.
When the core objective is localized empowerment rather than just hyper-growth for venture capital, the psychological burden of the work fundamentally shifts.
It changes the definition of scale. He isn't trying to scale a single app to 1 billion users. He is scaling his own output to provide a massive toolkit for his immediate ecosystem. Which brings us to the broader architecture of the company he leads, Alreflections. So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at the actual commercial infrastructure Alreflections is deploying, the economics are wild.
The company positions itself as a dynamic software company expanding globally, offering tailored marketing and software solutions.
Right.
And we know the operational gravity is centered in Rwanda, based on the +250 phone code and a highly engaged community post regarding Rwanda TVET Press.
Yeah.
which aligns perfectly with the technical and vocational education and training goals of the AI Summit.
Let's talk about the crown jewel of their commerce offering, because this is where the disruption really happens. It's their Sawasoko marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
They have an offering called the Magic Feed, where local merchants can open an online store, reach a nationwide customer base, showcase their products, and build a brand. And the cost for this hosting and marketplace access is exactly $3.60 per year.
This raises an important question. How does an infrastructure sustain itself at $3.60 a year? And what does a price point like that do to the legacy e-commerce market?
I mean, I'm looking at that $3.60 a year price tag, and my immediate thought is, how is that financially sustainable? Are they operating at a massive loss just to capture user data? Or is their server architecture just incredibly lightweight?
Right.
Because a basic Shopify tier is going to cost you roughly $400 a year. AWS hosting can easily hit that in a month.
It is likely a combination of highly efficient, localized server architecture and an understanding of purchasing power parity. If you take a standard Western e-commerce template, it is bloated with complex third-party tracking scripts,
Oh, absolutely.
heavy multimedia rendering, and integrations that require significant compute power. If Alreflections has stripped Swarsoko down to a hyper-efficient, lightweight HTML and CSS architecture optimized for low-bandwidth environments,
Then the server load per merchant is microscopic?
yes. So they aren't subsidizing a loss. They've engineered a platform where $3.60 actually covers the compute.
And by doing so, they completely remove the financial friction of entering the digital marketplace. For an artisan or a small merchant operating in an informal economy, a $400 a year subscription is mathematically impossible.
It acts as a gatekeeper.
Exactly. By dropping the floor to 360, Sawasoko isn't competing with Shopify. It is creating a completely new market of digitized local commerce that previously couldn't afford to exist online.
Yes.
It is a high-volume, low-margin play that acts as a massive economic catalyst.
And Sosoko is just one node in a much larger, staggering web of products. When you review the solutions and important link sections of their ecosystem, the sheer breadth of what they are trying to build internally is mind-boggling.
It really is.
They have Little Shark AI, iBlink social media, the Athena search engine, skill-based e-learning, and the Digital Arts Hub.
Let's break down the utility of those specific platforms, because they aren't just random apps. They are direct replacements for global monopolies. Athena is a localized search engine. iBlink is a localized social media network.
Right.
Little Shark AI represents indigenous artificial intelligence tooling.
And they already have a portfolio of active client platforms utilizing this infrastructure.
Yeah.
The materials list projects and websites like Extreme Adventure Tour, Developers with Attitude, Nuts Technologies, and several others.
Let's take one of those, say, Extreme Adventure Tour, and map out a hypothetical user journey on this track to see why this ecosystem is so potent.
Okay.
An independent local tour operator doesn't need to spend thousands on Western software. They can host their storefront on Sawasoko for $3.60 a year.
Right.
They ensure their business is indexed on the Athena's search engine so local tourists can actually find them without fighting global SEO algorithms. They run their localized marketing through iBlink social media.
Yeah.
And if they need to upskill their staff on digital marketing, they use skill-based e-learning.
It is a completely self-contained digital funnel. They never have to leave the Alreflections ecosystem to run their business, which explains the terminology used right at the end of their documentation.
Oh, yeah.
They refer to this entire interconnected web as the Alrefliverse.
The Alreflections.
Yeah.
That is a highly intentional piece of branding. It suggests a move away from the open, chaotic web and a move toward a curated, self-sufficient digital universe tailored specifically for this market.
It's an empowering idea, but we have to ask the critical question. Can a grassroots ecosystem like the Alrefliverse truly compete with the massive multi-billion-dollar server infrastructure and uptime guarantees of a Google or a Meta?
Competing on raw compute power against Meta is a losing battle.
Right.
But that is the wrong metric for success here. The Alrefliverse doesn't need to beat Meta globally. It only needs to serve Kigali or regional East African markets better, cheaper, and with more cultural context than Meta does. If Athena delivers more relevant local search results than Google, because it understands the nuances of local commerce better, it wins that market.
Yeah.
If Sawasoko is affordable and integrates with local mobile money providers better than a Western platform, it wins the local merchant.
Yeah.
They are winning by competing on context, not just raw scale.
And doing all of this while actively closing the skills gap by offering platforms like skill-based e-learning and partnering with Parity Digital Academy to ensure the community can actually develop the next iteration of these tools.
Right.
It is a beautifully closed loop of innovation, education, and commerce. I really want you to take that away from this deep dive. Seeing a fully localized, self-contained digital ecosystem being built from the ground up is a masterclass in identifying a community's needs and building direct solutions.
Well, let's take a moment to recap the incredible ground we have covered in this deep dive. We started by examining the mandate of the second African AI Innovators Summit 2026.
Yeah.
A clear directive to move away from theoretical imported AI and focus on building practical, locally relevant solutions to close the digital skills gap.
We analyzed the cross-disciplinary coalition of educators, AI researchers, consultants, and developers who are demanding that their community be in the room to actively shape this future.
We dissected the reality of Mihigo Iyaranaja, the programmer without stress,
Yeah.
and how utilizing agile, low-dependency deployment on platforms like itch.io allows for the astonishing output of over 200 programs designed to empower a success-aimed life.
And finally, we explored the mechanics of the Alreflections, an entirely localized digital ecosystem where highly efficient architecture allows for e-commerce hosting at $3.60 a year, effectively democratizing access to the digital economy.
Is an incredible blueprint for emerging tech markets anywhere in the world.
It absolutely is. And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider regarding the broader implications of what we've discussed.
Go for it.
For the last 2 decades, the defining trend of the global internet has been aggressive consolidation. We have watched a handful of monolithic tech giants based in a few Western cities capture the vast majority of the world's digital infrastructure, search traffic, and online commerce.
Right.
But when you analyze the sheer viability and comprehensive nature of projects like the Alrefleverse, with its own Atenas search engine, its own iBlink social network, and its own Sawasoko marketplace, it forces us to reevaluate the trajectory of the web.
Yeah.
As these hyperlocal, highly affordable digital ecosystems mature, and as they prove they can serve the specific cultural and economic realities of their communities better than a one-size-fits-all global platform.
Wow.
Will the future of the internet look less like a single homogeneous global empire and much more like a splintered but thriving constellation of self-sufficient, sovereign regional networks like the Alrefleverse?
That is a fascinating paradigm shift to ponder. Are we moving from the World Wide Web to a constellation of highly specialized regional webs? I love the implications of that. Well, we have unpacked some incredibly dense and rewarding material today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As always, take these insights, apply them to your own understanding of the tech landscape, and keep questioning the infrastructure that powers our digital world. Until next time, keep exploring.